I paid off my brother's $48,000 debt and let him stay in my guest house rent-free. Last week, I came home to an eviction notice filed by him. "You're squatting on my property now," he said, holding up a deed I didn't know he transferred. I was standing on the front lawn when the locksmith arrived and said, "Sorry, you're not on the papers." What I did after that call from the bank. My name's Dean. I'm 44 years old. I was living in Napa, California before everything got turned upside down. If you'd told me a year ago that my own little brother would steal my house out from under me and have me kicked out like a squatter, I would have laughed in your face. I thought I was the one person he'd never cross. I was wrong. Let me tell you how it happened. All of it. So, I own a small landscaping company. Been in business over a decade. I started it after working 10 years in property management and maintenance. I've always had an eye for detail, and I'm not afraid of hard work. I saved up for years and finally bought my own place about 6 years ago. It was a one-story house with a detached guest house in the back. The guest house was a dump when I bought it, but I fixed it up myself: new plumbing, new roof, fresh drywall. Took me 2 years to make it livable. Then our mom died. That was 2 years ago. My brother Kyle and I weren't exactly close before that, but we stayed in touch. Kyle's 6 years younger than me. He's always been a mess, to be honest. He dropped out of college, quit every job he started, went from scheme to scheme. I bailed him out of trouble more than once, and every time he swore he was going to change. After Mom died, he hit rock bottom. He called me crying one night. I hadn't heard him sound that broken since we were kids. He said he owed close to $50,000. Mostly credit card debt and loans, but I later found out he had gambling debts too. He said people were calling his phone nonstop, threatening him, showing up to his apartment. I felt bad for him. He was my brother. And even though I knew he was irresponsible, I couldn't just leave him like that. So I helped him. I spent weeks working the phones. I negotiated settlements. I paid off 4 credit cards, 2 private loans, and even helped him get a judgment vacated in small claims court. All in, I paid out around $48,000. I didn't just hand it over. I made sure it went to the right places. I also told him he could stay in the guest house behind my main home. I gave him a full year rent-free. I figured it was fair. I told him to save up, work, get back on his feet. At first, it looked like he might actually turn his life around. He got a part-time job at a tire shop and started helping out with odd jobs around my place. He'd mow the lawn sometimes or run errands. We'd talk in the evenings over a couple beers. But that only lasted a few months. Soon, I started noticing things. Random cars in the driveway late at night. Strangers hanging around in the backyard. Loud music after midnight. I asked him about it and he brushed me off. "Just friends," he said. "You're acting like a landlord." Then I caught him trying to get into the main house one weekend when I was out of town. I had cameras installed and I saw him trying the back door. He had some girl with him. When I asked him what the hell he was doing, he acted like I was crazy. Said he thought he left something inside once and was just checking. I didn't believe him, but I let it go. That was my mistake. A few weeks ago, I told him his rent-free deal was coming to an end. I gave him 60 days notice. Told him I'd help him find a place. But he needed to move out. He didn't take it well. He got quiet, cold even. Didn't say much to me after that. Just stared a lot, like he was waiting for something. Then last week, I came home from a job to find an eviction notice taped to my front door. At first, I thought it was a joke, but it had my name on it. It was real. Filed through Napa County. The notice said the new property owner was evicting me for unauthorized occupancy. The listed owner? Kyle? I thought there was a mistake. I went down to the recorder's office. I pulled the deed. My stomach dropped. My name was no longer on the title. It had been transferred legally to Kyle Jeffries. I nearly passed out in the middle of that office. I called him right then. He didn't even try to deny it. "Yeah," he said, calm as could be. "House is mine now. You're squatting." I asked him how the hell he pulled that off. He said, "Don't worry about it. Just get out. You've got 5 days." I honestly didn't believe it would go anywhere. I thought there had to be some way to reverse it. I had all the paperwork, all the proof. But that didn't matter in the moment. Because 3 days later, the locksmith showed up. With a sheriff. I was on the front lawn in my work boots, yelling at the sheriff that this was my house. The locksmith said, "You're not on the papers, man. I'm sorry. I spent that night in a motel off Route 29. I had nothing but the clothes on my back and my work truck. I felt like a fool. The next morning, I got a call from the bank. They asked me if I had recently taken out a $224,000 home equity loan on my former address. I hadn't. Kyle had. Turns out he forged my signature on a power of attorney form, backdated it, and used a fake notary seal. I later found out the notary was his ex-girlfriend, who he probably bribed or threatened to cooperate. The bank approved the loan. Kyle pulled the money, bought a new car, moved some into crypto, and probably wasted the rest. That's when it hit me, this wasn't just betrayal. This was fraud. This was theft. I called a lawyer. And that's when the real revenge started. The lawyer I hired, his name was Mark Carlin, was sharp. Older guy, mid-60s, used to be a prosecutor in Sacramento before moving into private practice. He didn't sugarcoat anything. "You've been screwed," he said, flipping through the deed transfer and loan documents I gave him. "This isn't some mistake. This was planned. Carefully." He explained how Kyle must have forged my signature on the deed transfer and filed it with the county clerk. The notary part made it look legit. And the fake power of attorney? That's how he got the bank to sign off on the equity loan. I was sitting across from Mark, my jaw clenched, my hands shaking. "Can we undo this?" I asked. He leaned back, took off his glasses, and said, "Maybe, but it won't be fast. And it won't be clean." That night I drove past my old house. All the lights were on, music blasting from the guest house. Cars lined up on the street. I saw Kyle out front, shirtless, drinking beer with some guys I didn't recognize. He saw my truck and smirked, raised his can like he was toasting me. That's when I decided he wasn't just going to lose the house. He was going to regret ever stepping foot in it. First thing I did was freeze his accounts. Kyle was dumb enough to use a joint checking account we opened years ago when we tried a short-lived side hustle flipping used lawnmowers. I still had my name on it. He moved most of the loan money through that account. Mark helped me file an emergency motion to freeze the assets under that account. We also contacted the bank that issued the loan. Once we showed them the forged documents and the fake notary, they froze everything on their end too. Within a week, Kyle's funds were locked up. Second, we went after the deed. Mark filed a civil suit to nullify the title transfer based on fraud. We submitted handwriting samples, pulled Kyle's previous signatures, and even got a statement from a handwriting expert. The fake notary seal? Yeah, we tracked her down. Her name was Lacey. She had a record 2 years ago. She got busted in Stockton for falsifying DMV paperwork. Mark subpoenaed her. The moment she realized she could be charged again, she flipped. She handed over texts and emails showing Kyle coached her on exactly what to write and when to file. The house wasn't just going back in my name. Kyle was facing criminal charges. But here's where it gets worse. While all this was happening, Kyle retaliated. He showed up at one of my landscaping job sites, drunk, yelling, calling me a liar in front of my crew. He threw a rock at one of our clients' windows. Cops got called. He got taken in but released the next day. The damage was done though. That client fired us. I lost a $14,000 monthly contract because of that idiot. Then he started spreading lies online. Left fake reviews on my business page. Made up stuff like I was stealing tools from clients, overcharging retirees, even said I used undocumented workers. I spent weeks doing damage control. And still, I didn't stop. I documented everything. Every voicemail. Every email. Every threat. I saved it all. I wasn't just fighting to get my house back. I wanted him exposed for what he really was. A lying, thieving parasite who used his own family like a piggy bank. A few weeks into the lawsuit, I found something else. An email chain between Kyle and a real estate investor in Oakland. He was trying to sell my house. My house. The deal had fallen through when the bank froze the account holding the title, but that was his plan all along: steal the house, cash out, disappear. He wasn't trying to live there. He was trying to flip it and run. That's when my lawyer said this just went from civil fraud to full-blown felony real estate fraud. And if we time this right, we can bury him. I told Mark I didn't want a settlement. I didn't want Kyle to pay me back and walk away. I wanted him to lose everything. It was around that time I found out something else, something that made my stomach turn. My ex-fiancée, Rachel, who I broke up with 2 years ago after a messy split, had been seen at my old house. With Kyle. They were sleeping together. At first, I didn't believe it. Rachel and I were engaged for almost 5 years. We broke things off when she said she didn't want to settle into a boring life. She moved to San Diego not long after. I hadn't heard from her in over a year. But one of my old neighbors, Mrs. Beach, called me one night. Said she saw that blonde girl you used to date laughing with Kyle on the front porch. Said they were acting like a couple. I asked Mark to dig a little. He pulled Kyle's recent social media activity. Found photos, blurred, shady Instagram stories that showed them together at the house. One had a glimpse of Rachel's tattoo on her left shoulder, unmistakable. Another showed them drinking wine on my back porch with my custom-built fire pit in the background. I wasn't even angry at first. I felt humiliated. How deep did this go? Had they been talking before she left me? That night I sent her a text. I wasn't looking for closure. I just asked one question: were you in on this with him? She didn't reply, but she read it. The next twist came through the sheriff's department. Kyle had been arrested. Not for fraud, not yet, but for assault. Apparently, he got into a bar fight in Vallejo and cracked someone's jaw. While he was in jail for the night, I used the opportunity. Mark filed for a temporary restraining order, citing the threats, the property theft, and the job site incident. The court granted it. Now Kyle couldn't legally come within 100 feet of me, which meant he couldn't return to the house, because I was now back inside. Here's how. See, while Kyle was locked up for the night, and the title was still being disputed in court, the utilities were technically still in my name, including the alarm system. So I used my spare key, the one he didn't know about, hidden in the birdhouse I built myself 6 years ago, to walk into my own house. I filmed everything, took photos, documented that the house was still furnished with my things. I didn't damage anything. I didn't change the locks. But I was there, in the house, and I called the cops and showed them the court order. They couldn't remove me. I wasn't trespassing anymore. I had just enough legal ground to sit tight until the case was resolved. That moment, sitting alone in my own living room again, felt like the eye of a hurricane. Calm, but I knew more was coming. Kyle got out the next day. When he pulled up to the house and saw me on the porch, he lost it. Started screaming from the street. Threatened to call the cops. I didn't flinch. I just held up the restraining order. He threw a beer can at my mailbox and sped off. I called the police again and filed a report for harassment. That was strike one. A week later, I found out he tried to break into my company truck, which I parked around the corner. Didn't get in, but he slashed 2 tires and scratched the passenger door. There were no cameras, but I knew it was him. Strike 2. But the real twist came next. I got a letter in the mail from the IRS. Apparently, Kyle had been using my social security number to file false tax returns in my name. He'd been collecting fake refunds for 2 years, just small enough to avoid audit flags. Around $3,000 here, $2,500 there. But it added up. He used my info, again from that forged power of attorney, and filed as me using fake W-2s from companies I'd never worked for. The IRS was now auditing me. That was the moment I realized how long this had been in the works. This wasn't a sudden betrayal. Kyle had been planning this for years. While I was helping him out, letting him live in my guest house, cleaning up his messes, he was learning how to steal my life. I sat in my kitchen that night, staring at the pile of paperwork, thinking about all the nights I'd spent helping him out, talking him down from panic attacks, wiring him money, defending him to our relatives. And now he was stealing my identity. This wasn't just about a house anymore. It was war. I had enough. No more patience. No more warnings. No more giving him chances. Mark, my lawyer, filed the final complaint, this time with the district attorney's office. Along with all the evidence we'd collected, forged documents, bank fraud, identity theft, witness statements, surveillance photos, the fake tax returns. It was a thick file. Over 200 pages. 2 weeks later, Kyle was arrested at a gas station outside Vallejo. He tried to fight the cops. Spit on one of them. That added another charge to the list. When he saw me in the courtroom at his arraignment, he wouldn't even look me in the eyes. They charged him with 5 felonies: real estate fraud, forgery, grand theft, identity theft, and filing false tax returns. He was denied bail because he was considered a flight risk. That wasn't even the best part. While Kyle was rotting in county jail, his so-called girlfriend, notary girl, Lacey, turned over more proof. Text messages, voice recordings, even video of him bragging about how easy it was to trick his dumb brother. I made sure the DA had all of it. The IRS came after him too. They froze his personal assets and opened a full investigation. Since the tax fraud was across multiple years, it became a federal case. That meant Kyle was facing time in state and federal prison. Now about Rachel, my ex-fiancée. She reached out a week after Kyle's arrest. Called me. Left a voicemail like nothing had happened. She said, I had no idea he was doing all that. I just thought we were hanging out. I didn't know it was your house. I didn't call her back. Instead, I sent her name and details to the IRS investigator too. Turns out, Kyle had transferred some of the stolen money into a new joint account with her. She thought she was getting a free ride. What she got instead was a surprise audit and a visit from 2 federal agents. She deleted her socials the same week. Haven't heard from her since. As for the house, 6 months after the lawsuit started, the judge ruled in my favor. The title was restored in my name. The forged documents were thrown out. The notary license was permanently revoked, and Lacey was sentenced to 12 months of probation. When I walked back into my house officially as the owner again, it was empty. Kyle had trashed it before he got arrested. Holes in the drywall, smashed windows, burned marks on the hardwood floors. But I didn't care. I stood in the middle of the living room and laughed. He tried to steal my life. Now he had nothing. Kyle took a plea deal. He got 7 years in state prison plus 2 years federal for the tax charges. Total of 9 years. He has to pay restitution over $200,000. But let's be real, he'll never earn enough in prison to pay me back. That's okay, because I'm not waiting for a check. I already got my revenge. Every time he wakes up on that concrete slab, every time they count the inmates at 5 a.m., every time he has to eat lunch in silence next to a guy who stabbed someone over a deck of cards, that's another little slice of justice. Every time Rachel changes her number to dodge the IRS or sees a credit hit she didn't expect, that's karma. And me? I rebuilt the house. Took 6 months. Replaced the floors. Painted the walls. Turned the guest house into a proper rental. Screened the tenants myself. No more favors. No more family helping hands. I keep the birdhouse keyhole empty now. And I sleep with both doors locked. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: just because someone's your family doesn't mean they deserve your trust. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who'll burn you the worst. But if you keep your head, gather proof, and hit back smart, you can burn them right back. Only harder. And this time, the flames don't go out.